Hi guys, welcome back. So I'm going to do another movie review today. Now, a couple of months ago I saw Terrence Malick's new film, A Hidden Life. Now, Malick's a filmmaker I've been into for a very long time. I think the first film I saw from him was The Thin Red Line, which I still hold to be not just one of the best war films ever made, but also the best war film of that year. Now, so I know that's quite a controversial feud between that and Saving Private Ryan, but The Thin Red Line for me is an incredible film, and you know, not just on a technical level, but the way it deals with the human side of war. Also interesting because it took place in the Pacific Theatre and covered that side of World War II rather than the kind of normal D-Day and European route. So I thought it's an extraordinary film in so many ways, as is Days of Heaven and Badlands. They're kind of his first three films that I think kind of were released over the course of over 25 years. So he was always known as a director that took pretty big gaps between his films, and then between The Thin Red Line and A New World, I think was another like 10 years, and then not quite 10 years actually, I think like 7. And then again, he took another big gap between A New World and The Tree of Life, which I consider his best film. But then after The Tree of Life, he made films quite frequently, and the quality suffered as a result. His first film, I think, after The Tree of Life was To the Wonder with Ben Affleck, which I didn't like. Neither of the last three films have, in my opinion, been worth not just reviewing, but even talking about. All three of them are Malick's preoccupation with the digital style, the digital format. I can't see them as anything beyond kind of visual experimentation in terms of actual substance and any deeper meaning. I think it's difficult to look beyond those films. I know some people have said that, you know, there's some secret poeticism within those films, but I disagree. I think they're pretentious. A word that I don't like to use too much, especially when talking about Malick, because it's a very easy road to go down. A lot of his films, and even The Hidden Life to some degree, people could consider pretentious. His films are not conventional in the way they're made, and the way he tells his stories is extremely visual, and this film's no different. Now, what I like about this film, apart from the fact that it's on World War II, and again, like The Thin Red Line, kind of takes a different kind of approach, actually. It's a very different film to that, obviously. But obviously this takes place in Europe. Beautiful Austrian countryside. The location shooting for this film is absolutely stunning. The film tells the story of, it's actually based on a real life story of someone during World War II in Austria, basically defied enrollment and fighting for the new Nazi state. Now, this is something that's, you know, films have been told about this, of course. There were many people during that time that did refuse to fight, many dissidents in Germany and across Europe who refused to go along with Hitler's demands and the German war machine. And the title, Hidden Life, is taken from George Eliot's Middlemarch, which was a collection of stories written in the 19th century, and a lot of the themes that run through Eliot's book are present in Malick's films. So there's a big emphasis on religion, social issues, idealism, and yeah, political reform. And I think all of these issues are very prevalent and, you know, form the centerpiece of this film. What this film does really well and captures really powerfully, I thought, was the whole concept of a hero without trace. Now, obviously, there were many people, like I mentioned, that did this, and a lot of them would have not been remembered. A lot of them would have just got killed, and that would have been the end of it. So there's this tension between what's moral and you know, what will serve your interest at that time, especially placing it in that context of, you know, World War II Austria. You know, there would have been many people that would have had that internal conflict. Some would have succumbed to it, some wouldn't have been known, and some wouldn't have succumbed to it, and some would have just fought along as the rest of them did. And it's a really timeless concept as well. You know, there will always be people that stand in the way of power. I remember the famous photo of the tank man in Tiananmen Square in China. And you know, there's just this photo of someone standing in front of this huge tank, and some people take that leap and do the right thing. And I think this film really captures the whole idea of that and the sacrifice of that, but also the concept of doing it without anyone knowing about it, without anyone knowing that you've made that sacrifice. Now, the film isn't shot by Emmanuel, Lubezki, the DP who shot his last 5 films. I think it's lensed by his focus puller. It's a remarkably handsome looking film, and I think, you know, just as well so, because not only does it capture that stunning Austrian landscape, but it really captures this idea of this beautiful kind of small village, and surrounding it is war and terror. He's removed from it, but whenever he goes out to war, he's reminded of what's going on beyond the hills, the green landscapes and the kind of untouched countryside. So the film is beautiful, but I think its beauty actually really serves a potent contrast with the horrors that were going on at that time and that context. Perhaps I think the most interesting thing about the film for me was Malick's kind of meditation on religion and the relationship between religion and fascism across Europe during that time. And I think that's something that was very bold for him to do. He actually tackles it with some quite close examination. Diehl plays France in the film in the central role, and he's absolutely magnificent in the film. Extremely emotional, really embodied that conflict. You could really feel the martyrdom in him and the conflict of interests between his family, his children, and the morally right thing to do. And I thought it was a really, really powerful performance. And obviously most people will probably remember him from his role in Inglourious Basterds, so it's definitely nice to see him play a completely different role to that. I highly recommend the film. Is it a return to form for Malick? To an extent, yeah. I think it's probably his best film since The Tree of Life, for sure. But other than that, I would probably rank it just above A New World, with the rest of them above it. So it's a very good film. Probably one you should see if you're interested in that period, or if you're interested in Malick, in which case you've probably already seen it. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you later.